Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, and then we are going to do section 11.8 and 11.9 review, and then your assignment will be the practice quiz. Do Thursday at 11:59, but what I'll do is when you post if you post by 8 o'clock, I'll include the answer key. I'm not going to include a video, but I'll include the answer key on that day. Under the comments section. So if you post by 8 p.m., I'll put the answer key under the comments section there so that you can look it over. And then we got our typical Canvas conferences today, noon to 12:30, and then tomorrow, 8:30 to 9, where we definitely would be good to show up so we can go over the review. And then Friday will be the quiz. Basically, our last summative grade for the 9 weeks, it will be 44 points. So take a look at where your grade is at and just make sure you keep doing your best. All right, like I said, we're going to review section 11.8 and 11.9. There are guided notes. Hopefully you've already printed those off and just kind of review here. Now 11.8 can be a difficult section. A lot of you had trouble with the dividing, which we'll get to here in a couple minutes. Multiplying first. So in this part here, we want to always write the product in simplest form, which means if you get an answer of square root of 20, that can be reduced to 2 square root of 5. So we always want to be able to reduce the radicals. All right, now don't forget, you got to multiply outsides by outsides, inside by insides. There's no outside on that 15, so 3 would just multiply by a 1. And then you would take 6 times 15. And then definitely use your calculator as needed. But 6 times 15 gives us 90. So that is the square root of 90. Got to simplify that. And so 90 is 9 times 10, 3 times 3, 2 times 5. And so when I do simplify this, the pair of 3's gives me 1 3 on the outside. There's already a 3 there. They multiply together. And then multiply the 2 and the 5 together. So you get 9 square root of 10. So don't forget, you always have to simplify there at the end. All right. Now, do not try to FOIL there because there's no pluses, there's no binomials. It's just 2 terms times each other. All right, 2 squared is 7 squared. Probably one of the most missed ones. Okay, probably one of the most missed ones. Here's what you got to do for this one. 2 squared is 7 squared. You have to write it twice. And now when you write it twice, 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is square root of 49, but that is just 7. And then it's 4 times 7. Those multiply together give you 28. And we've been going over this, and hopefully it's sinking in. When you multiply 2 square roots together, if they are the same, you're just left with what's on the inside. And this is a step I would be fine with. You don't have to show that the square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is the square root of 49 and then make it 7. You should be able to just go straight to the 7. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is going to be 5. Square root of y times square root of y will just be y. Okay, for that, no more square root sign. So for number 2, we should end up with 28. Okay, now we got a minus sign in here. We got a single term on the outside. We got 2 terms on the inside. We have to distribute. Again, this is outside times outside, inside times inside. Well, square root of 5 is just an inside number. There's a 1 on the outside. And when you multiply that by 2 square root of 10, that'll give us 2 square root of 50. And now square root of 5 times 3 square root of 5, that's minus 3 square root of 25. Well, again, that's square root of 20, square root of 5 times square root of 5 should just give us a 5. Now, 50. I got to see if that'll simplify. It will. It's 2 times 5 times 5. I'm going to multiply those together, give me minus 15. 5 goes on the outside, times that 2. So I get 10 square root of 2 minus 15. And that's all I can do for that one right there. You cannot combine those because one has a radical and one does not. So that will be our final answer. All right, the fourth one. This is where we get into binomial times a binomial. Okay, you got a plus in the first one, you got a minus in the second one. We're going to have to FOIL. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times negative 3 square root of 5 is minus 9 square root of 5. Square root of 5 times 10 is plus 10 square root of 5. And then square root of 5, negative square root of 5 times negative 3 square root of 5 is negative 3 square root of 25. Square root of 25 is 5. That's going to be minus 15. Okay. Those will combine together. Negative 9 plus 10 is plus 1. And now you got a 30 and a minus 15. We combine those. 30 minus 15 is 15. I don't necessarily need to write that 1. You can just make it 15 plus square root of 5. Okay, 15 plus square root of 5. And then you are done. All right, one more with the multiplying. Now, if you have a quantity squared, you got a minus in here, or a plus, we have to write this twice. Square root of 11 minus 8 times square root of 11 minus 8. That gives us square root of 11 times square root of 11. That is just 11. Square root of 11 times negative 8 is minus 8 square root of 11. Negative 8 times square root of 11 is minus 8 square root of 11. And negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. I got an 11. I got a positive 64. That's 75. Negative 8 square root of 11 minus 8 square root of 11. Negative 16 square root of 11. Nothing you can do there. Do not take 75 minus 16 because you cannot, because they're not like radicals. Okay, this is still part of section 11.8, dividing radical expressions, which is also part of this is what we call rationalize the denominator. You cannot leave a square root in the denominator. To be simplified, to be in the correct form, you cannot have a radical. So remember what we do for this is whatever that radical is in the denominator, you got to multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 5 over square root of 5. We call that a factor of 1. Now, square root of 6 times square root of 5 is square root of 30. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Remember, it's going to give you square root of 25, but that is just 5. Now, we do need to check, see whether 30 can be reduced. And it's 10 times 3, and then it's 2 times 5 times 3. We get no pairs there, so the square root of 30 is in simplest form, square root of 30 over 5. Okay, then you're done. All right, number 7 here. Square root of 2, 6 square root of 14 over square root of 2. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by square root of 2. Well, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is just 2. This becomes 6 square root of 28. 14 times 2 is 28. Well, 28 will simplify. It is 4 times 7. It is 2 times 2. So I get a pair of 2's. So I got 6 square root 2 times 7 over this 2. This 6 multiplies one of those 2's, gives you 12 square root of 7 over 2. All right, well, one thing you got to watch is you have to simplify completely, which means if you have any constants on the outside, they can be reduced. We got to reduce those. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So now that's your final answer, 6 square root of 7. All right, that looks a little light, but that's a square root of 18y over the square root of 10. I'm going to do this 2 different ways. Square root of 18y over square root of 10. So I can go ahead and just start and multiply by square root of 10 over square root of 10. And that gives me 10 in the denominator. 18 times 10 is 180. And then don't forget about that y. 180, I got to factor tree that one. Well, we already know it's 18 times 10, 6 times 3, 2 times 5, 2 times 3. So what I end up with, I got 2 2's, 2 3's, a 5, and a y, all over 10. I take a 2 out, I take a 3 out, multiply those together. You're left with 5y on the inside. And I still have that 10. Okay, 6 over 10 reduces. So this final answer is 3 square root of 5y over 5. Okay, now if you do it this way, perfectly fine. You'll get the right answer. Just want to show you something. Square root of 18y over square root of 10, which sometimes can be a little bit easier depending upon how you view things. If in your original problem you have something that can reduce, sometimes it helps to reduce it before you multiply by anything. What I mean by that is 18 is 6 times 3. 6 is 2 times 3. I have a pair of 3's. This can simplify to 3 square root, and I'll have a 2 and a y left on the inside from this 2 and then that y over square root of 10. Now, when I multiply by the square root of 10, this 3 multiplies by nothing but this 1 over there, and I get square root of 20y over 10. Well, I still have to do the factoring of the 20, but it's a little bit simpler because I don't have as big of a number. And sometimes I don't even have to do it at all. It's already simplified. But in this case, I still have to do 4 times 5 is 2 times 2. The 2 will go on the outside and multiply by the 3 to get 6. And then I still have my 6 over 10, which still reduces to 3 over 5. You got to get the same answer. And if you can reduce ahead of time, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier. Not every time, but I said more often than not, it will. If you do it this way, where you just multiply by square root of 10 over square root of 10 right away, you still can get the right answer. So that's your dividing, okay, or what we call rationalizing denominator. The last part of this chapter, or these 2 sections, is what we call solving radical equations. Well, when the equation means you have to have an equal sign, okay? A radical means there's somewhere in the problem you're going to have a square root sign. All right, when we went through these, one of the main things you have to do is make sure that the square root, whatever we're taking the square root of, is isolated, or it's by itself. So if there's anything over there, you've got to move whatever else is to the other side. So I have to add 7. And now this gives me the square root of 2x plus 5 equals 12 plus 7 is 19. Once you get to this point, and the square root is isolated, you square both sides. Now from Monday's notes, we talked about when you square both sides, you're just going to be, or when you square a radical, basically the square and the radical cancel, you're left with what's on the inside. We get 2x plus 5 equals 19 squared. Well, what in the world is that? 19 squared, I'm going to guess 361. Ooh, and I'm right. Subtract 5. 2x equals 361 minus 5, which gives me 356. And now divide by 2. And what do we get for 356 divided by 2? I get 178. So when you see the square root and it's in an equation, isolate the radical first, then square both sides. Let me hold on. I think we got one more. Oh, there it is. Okay, now this one has two terms with radicals in it. One, and then in this case, you got to get one on each side, which we already have. So you can go ahead and at this point, square both sides. When you do that, that just leaves you 6y plus 19 equals 2y minus 5. Now I'm just going to solve this like normal. I want to get all the y's on one side, move the little guy, subtract 2y. I get 4y plus 19 equals negative 5. Subtract 19. 4y equals a negative 24 divided by 4. Y equals negative 6. All right, now it says check your answers because you could end up having something that doesn't work. So if I plug in negative 6, let's see what I get here. 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. Negative 36 plus 19 is negative 17. And then 2 times negative 6 is negative 12, minus 5 is negative 17. So it works. And I believe this one here, what's going to work 2 times 178. 356 plus 5 is 361. And when you take the square root of that, you're going to get 19. And 19 minus 7 is 12. Okay, so both answers work. Makes them true. Okay, your assignment is the practice quiz. Okay, show all work and answers on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, and then like I said, if you get this in before 8 o'clock, I'll put the answer key on the comments just so that you have that. All right, everybody, have a great day.